He's like, huh, she's like, huh, and he's like, it's so beautiful.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
Welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yo!
All right. You know what? A crazy-ass movie came out last weekend. Crazy-ass. Fucking James Wan, man, in this Malignant movie is fucking bonkers. It's fucking insane. And it's a joy to watch.
It really is. Yeah.
I mean, it's because James Wan, I think James Wan has a style, and he's become one of our best directors that we have in these days. Now, I don't think he's ever come out with like an absolute masterpiece. I think a lot of people might think The Conjuring is there.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ever come out with that, like, whoa, that right there, that is just a slam dunk. But within the genres that he inhabits, usually horror movies, he's really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good at knowing how to use his camera to get you into a sense of unease and everything. But yeah, this movie Malignant came out, and a lot of us saw it over the weekend. It was kind of a viral type of thing. Like,
it really was. Yeah.
Because I said something about watching it, and then Jonathan watched it, and then Barrett was like, "I'll watch it too. Fuck it." and we started talking about the merits of the movie and the relative unmerits, I don't know, the flaws of the movie, and there's that awesome 3-story one shot where Annabelle Wallace is running through the house, and the ending is fucking great without giving any spoilers. For the ending of this movie is fucking great. But it's also part of this bonkers thing, right?
It sure is.
And a movie called Cop Shop is coming out this weekend, which is guaranteed to be insane because Gerard Butler is in it, and Gerard Butler is in nothing but batshit insane movies these days.
Yeah.
And so inspired by these two movies that have come out in September, no surprise. We thought we would talk about other kinds of bonkers movies that have come out over the years and just kind of talk about their general bonkersness, I guess.
It's so much fun because, you know what, when I watched Malignant and I was looking at the trailer for Cop Shop, which I haven't seen Cop Shop, none of us have. It may be the worst movie of all time, but it looks insane. And so I was thinking about batshit insane movies that aren't necessarily good, not necessarily great, but the ones that we go back to because they just go for whatever they're going for. And I appreciate the shit out of these. Now, there's a lot of overlap of cult movies, right? A lot of cult movies go for it to varying degrees of success, but these are just batshit insane movies. We're going to leave a few off on here. There's a lot of horror movies that go for crazy shit, okay, that we're not going to get to. There's a lot of absurdist comedies that go for it, that some of which we'll cover. But these are the ones that really stick out as just ones that really hit you out of nowhere. Like, are you serious? That's
it's
the
almost
subtitle
like
of
there's
this whole thing.
like no studio interference whatsoever. Like, they don't give a fuck. It's sunk cost at this point. They're just like they're like, all right, we're making this stupid ass movie. You just do whatever you want to, and that's what they do. So
Yes.
And they never have any notes for these people. They're just like, just fucking make it, and let's come out with it, and let's get it on video already.
And that's what it seems like Malignant was. And as we were going back and forth on Slack, James Wan has built up so much. I mean, he's made so much money for the studios over the years that, you know, I think, especially after Aquaman, that he was kind of given carte blanche on this movie, and
I think so too.
He did what he wanted to do. I didn't even love this movie. I just enjoyed the experience of watching it. and I appreciated this movie. And those are that's good stuff. This was a day and date thing, by the way. You can watch it on HBO Max or go to theaters to see it. But it'd be a recommend if you're in the mood for a crazy movie.
Yeah. So Barrett, you wrote a whole bunch of movies down here, and you're right. I want to make this clear right off the bat that we're not doing a comprehensive all-time crazy bonkers movie thing. Barrett's mentioned this, and there's plenty of horror movies that you could have picked out of this, especially from the 80s, and especially a movie called Chopping Mall. But that's all we've got. We're not going to do every single one of those. It's just stuff that came to our mind.
Chopping Mall.
Yeah, there's a movie called Chopping Mall. Yeah. It's about killer robots at a mall.
Yeah.
So
20 minutes on that shit.
You could. I'm sure Jonathan has seen that movie 5 times. All right. So, you mentioned Malignant. All right. The next one under the list is McGruber.
Listen, Jeremy was the first, I think, of all of my friends to really go all in on this movie, and I kind of pushed back a little bit. I was like, no, dumb. I'd seen it once, went back now twice. This movie's fucking brilliant, man. This movie's so good. Everybody is so fucking good in this movie, and it's got quotes out the ass. It is every bit as good as the most quoted Will Ferrell movie of all time. It's so good.
Yeah, man. It's I think it's good because not all these movies we're going to talk about today are even good, but few of them are good because of how batshit insane they are. But this just started with a sketch on SNL that was batshit insane. It was basically MacGyver, only he's terrible. And a lot of SNL movies just take that skit concept and throw $50 million at it and make it look slick and pad it out, and it's the same joke as the skit. This is not that at all. They took the skit and they fed it crack cocaine and acid and some noble gases and other various ingredients that just it took everything to the extreme. Like, everything about this guy is extreme. Like the anger he gets at that one car that cuts him off, so he memorizes the license plate, and then later you find out he's written that license plate 1,052 times in this notebook because he's so angry. And then that's not enough. Then he finds the car again while he's on a conversation with his boss, and just casually beats the shit out of the car without talking about it. I adore this movie because it's so bonkers. If it had been played even a little bit straighter, it would not have the magic it does. It has to be over the top. Like fucking when you meet Val Kilmer's character, he's painting a portrait of a naked, huge woman, like elderly, and he's encouraging his assistant to spritz more water on her, and it's immediately like Bond villain ramped up in directions Austin Powers would never dare go.
He goes, wet her. And he spritzes something, and he's like, more. And he spritzes some more. And of course, the portrait that he's painting looks nothing like
nothing like her.
I watched this movie the night before it came out. I was at Hollywood 27 when this came out, and watched it with 2 other people, and we had a miserable experience. Now, I don't know if it's because the collective 3 of us, like if there's just one downer in a crowd, it may make everything that you might find the least bit funny like suddenly becomes terrible or whatever. I don't know how this would have been if it was under the usual circumstance, if I had watched this by myself. Because I like that opening thing where like they're doing that 80s song and everything, and the saxophone player comes in and all that. But I really love that part. He fucks both Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph in this movie. And like there's the, there's like, I'm gonna shoot I'm gonna fucking shoot. And I think, what is it, Maya Rudolph who's the ghost or
Yes,
whatever?
yeah.
Maya Rudolph's
Yeah.
a ghost.
Yeah.
And so I think is there at some point where the camera is like a far away and you see that he's not fucking anything?
Yeah,
He's just,
there's a grave attendant, like some guy with a shovel or something, and it shows you his POV, and that's the only time that you don't see Maya Rudolph, and it's just this fucking Will Forte's naked ass thrusting on top of the
Oh, it's the
gravestone,
greatest.
and he's grunting,
Yeah. Well, because before the Kristen Wiig scene, he starts off with they start to kiss, and she's like, "I'm a virgin." He's like, "Not for long."
Well, she's like sewing up a gunshot wound.
Yeah, and
So he's like,
just leave it open.
I like holes.
But then it goes into this like sensual sex scene with like sweat dripping off his ass and everything. And then it cuts to the reality where he's like, and then when he fucks Maya Rudolph and the ghost, he's like, she's like, and he's like, so beautiful. So beautiful.
Oh, I gotta watch this movie again.
yeah. I recently got the Blu-ray of this, so I'm gonna have to watch it.
And I'll tell you what, Ryan Phillippe, he's game. Powers Booth, he's game.
He's
Val
doing
Kilmer is as funny as he was as Gay Perry in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, just in a different type of role. Everybody's having a great time.
Next on the list, and this is like Hall of Fame bonkers, is Face Off.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
You know, when you watch a movie, sometimes you're just like, you just go along with it. This is Face Off to me. You go along with it. It's like, oh, there's this technology where you can switch faces. Great, But when you write down the plot of this movie, that's where you realize, but yeah, Nick, this is when I think people are finally getting introduced to insane Nicolas Cage. Like, he had done a lot of stuff before this that was insane, but not many people knew of those. This is where he brought it mainstream. And especially at the very beginning where he's dressed up as that priest and he's like doing that fucking dance while the Catholic choir singing and all that. And he goes over behind the girl singing and everything. And he's like, of course he's, touching her and everything. And he's got that wild look in his eyes. And of course the fucking name, Castor Troy, is an insane name.
I'm Castor Troy. I'm Castor Troy.
This movie's so bonkers that by the end of it, when they adopt the kid and they basically steal the kid.
They steal the kid.
There's no adoption to this or anything.
Just brings him home.
Yeah, just brings him home and says, "Welcome to the family."
This little face wipe.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. But
There's that
so then,
scene, the wildest scene to me. The wildest scene is that Papa's got a brand new bag where he's like smoking a cigarette, checking out the daughter in her underwear.
Oh yeah.
It's skeezy.
Yeah.
Like, how did that's the skeeziest thing in the whole movie. How did no one go, this scene is kind of uncomfortable. We should cut this scene and just do more face wiping.
Nobody. John Woo
seems-
said, "I'm not cutting anything in this movie. I'm just gonna let it go."
Do you think this could have benefited more by having Cage play the Travolta role and Travolta playing the Cage role?
Okay, I thought about this a lot. Yes, presumably yes. It could have been switched, right? Especially because this was kind of still when Travolta was playing villains mostly. Even Vincent Vega is a bad guy, even though he's the protagonist. But Broken Arrow and all that shit. And so they both ostensibly get the chance to play the villain. But I think Cage being Sean Archer, being Castor Troy, is really the only way to play it, because he's got to get into those mannerisms towards the end, especially when he's on No More Drugs for This Man. That thing. Where he's, I want to take his face off. I couldn't see Travolta doing that as Castor Troy.
That's true.
Later on. So I think it's the best of both worlds. Travolta does get to play the villain He is way over the top, but it's like they're trying to over the top each other. And God bless them. I'm so glad they did, because that's the only reason this movie is watchable.
Here's what I think. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, I was just gonna insert the fact that I just think that you get more Cage insanity if it's the roles are reversed.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
So, you're right, because Cage has to pretend. Yeah. I think the movie would benefit greatly from being set 50 or 100 years in the future instead of present day. I think if you total recall this and set it way in the future, it's way less ridiculous that they swap faces. But setting it in modern day, it just makes it stupid, like flat out stupid. And then everything else starts to show through. So, yeah, I think if they'd have Philip K. Dicked it and kicked it up a few decades, because there's a lot of
needs a good dicking.
It's a good dicking. Like if you take
damn good dicking.
If you take Gattaca, for instance, and you set it in present day, and you talk about cutting someone's legs and inserting extra inches so they're a little bit it's stupid. It's dumb. But setting it in the future, you don't bat much of an eye at that, and you're able to focus more on the societal issues the movie is actually trying to talk about in that context. So that's what's always bugged me about Face Off, is that it's set in modern day, but none of it matches modern day anything. Or cartoon. You make it a cartoon, I think that also. But
I do love that shot though. Them at the mirror and they turn around and face basically who they are. That's a fucking masterclass. Putting that thing in your movie. Realizing what your movie is. Really. I love that. But yeah, man, Face Off, so fun. It's
impossible to describe this movie. Like if you were to say like, what's Face Off about? And like, I don't know.
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember what's the incident that makes him decide that he's going to be Castor Troy, because Castor Troy turns into him right first.
Yeah, no, it's the other way around. So he actually Sean kills Castor, or he kills him basically.
Thinks he does
at the airport. But Castor didn't give up where the bomb was. There's a big bomb going off, and the only one that knows it is his brother Pollock. So Sean has to go. Yeah, exactly. So Sean has to go undercover using this new technology to replace his face and go into prison as Castor and talk to Pollock and figure out where the bomb is.
It's Pollux, right? Pollux.
Yeah, because they're named after stars.
Right.
Yeah, Pollux. But yeah, so that's the reason why. And then while he is in there, the real Castor comes to life, and you've got that wonderful like reflective shot of him smoking a cigarette with no face on.
Oh yeah.
After he kills the FBI agents, and then somehow turns into Sean. And, that's crazy.
Next on this insane list is Law Abiding Citizen, and I watched this for this podcast. I don't know if you realize how fucking insane this movie is until you watch it. Like you can explain it to people, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds insane," but then you watch it. And it's like, oh, it's even more insane. Yeah. Think about like one of the opening scenes of this movie where they juxtapose a guy getting a lethal injection with a cello performance.
That tells you where this movie's going, baby.
By the way, Jamie Foxx plays like an assistant DA in this movie where he tells his beautiful wife, Regina Hall, I can't be there for our daughter's recital because I got to go watch this guy get lethally injected.
Yep.
That's so goddamn important.
Classic excuse.
Right. But like by the end of it, where the guy, like we find out that the lethal injection is not working the way it should. It actually causes great pain to him instead of like just putting him to sleep. by the end of it, when he dies, and remember, they're juxtaposing this between this and a cello recital. He dies, and then you see people clapping out in the audience and everything. It's so fucking weird, man. But yeah, Gerard Butler, of course, is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a home invasion at the beginning of this where, two asshole crooks come in, and then they one of them I think tries to rape his wife, and then he takes his daughter, and then we find out later that he killed both his wife and daughter. And through some bullshit, I really do think this scene is bullshit, where Gerard Butler's talking to Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx is like, well, we got the DNA evidence, but some sort of technicality is going to make it where they can't prosecute this guy. And he's like, well, I saw his face. And he's like, well, you were unconscious when all of this happened, so you can't possibly. I was like, bullshit. So they set this up where the system has failed this guy.
He's gonna put the system on trial.
That's right. I know. For the next 10 years, I'm going to buy up all this land everywhere around town, and I'm going to dig a tunnel from one of them to the solitary confinement in the jail, and I'm going to commit a series of crimes that will get me to that solitary.
Including, doesn't he kill somebody with the steak bone, with the
does.
T-bone?
He kills an inmate because that's part of the plan, right? Think about the things that have to go right for this to happen, because he says at first he works his way around not giving his confession about who he killed, because he kills the two guys that broke into his house. That goes without saying. He does that right off the bat in another insane plan where he stuns a cop, and he pretends to be a cop.
Yeah, he's the cop, right? He chases him down.
And then he hopes that this dude will run across rooftops over to the cop car and drive the cop car. I don't know. He ends up and then takes a gun that has some sort of poison from some sort of blowfish from the Caribbean.
I love this movie. I love it so much.
Jeremy, you're the one who brought attention to this movie. Tell us what you love about this shit.
No, you've already done a fine job, especially because you watched it. So I haven't seen it since I brought it up on the podcast. I don't remember the details as well as you, but I'm now going to watch it again, possibly tonight, because yeah, it's so absurd that it becomes fun, at least for me. And it's hard for a movie to be that absurd, to be honest, because for the first hour, it's like, what the fuck? And then once you just give yourself over, oh man, it's perfect. It's fucking perfect. Well, he blows up the cell at the end, right? He got a bomb in the cell.
Jamie Foxx, yeah,
because Jared Butler was trying to kill somebody.
He's trying to kill the mayor and everybody in there. She's asking for help from Homeland Security about what to do with this guy who is somehow committing murders in prison, and they don't know how.
From solitary.
And nobody's guarding this guy. Nobody's looking at what he's doing. I also thought it was just absurd that they didn't find out that he owned the land next to the prison all the way till the end of the movie. But the thing with the steak bone, which was what I was trying to get to, was just think about all the things that have to happen. All right. So he says, I will confess if you give me certain things. So when it feels like he's up against the wall, he goes, well, I can tell you where Bill Reynolds or somebody, I think that's his name is. You can tell him where he is. Now he's the defense attorney for the two guys that got off of the case. And they said, he says, well, give me a porterhouse with all the fixings and all this other type of stuff. Give me all this food, and I'll tell you where he is. And so they give him this like incredible meal. They even wheel it out on a like hotel cart to him and everything. And he's eating it in front of his cellmate, and he goes, and the cellmate threatens to kill him if he doesn't let him have some of the food. So they have this nice dinner together, and then when the steak is done and there's just a steak bone, he goes over and stabs this guy about 20 times in the jugular. There's so much blood in that scene. It's like, and so yeah, that gets him to solitary, and I'm just sitting there just going, like, once weird things happen and they're like, what the hell is this? How the hell is this guy doing this type of stuff? You would think he'd be on 24/7 watch at that point, and
I wouldn't trust a porterhouse cooked by prison staff.
No.
Now, which leads me to a completely unimportant question. The movies are I'm guessing the movies are accurate when they tell us that death row inmates get to have a last meal and they get to make requests, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that's probably true. But if you request a porterhouse, they're not going to go to Ruth's Chris and have it door dashed to the prison. They're gonna get the cheapest fucking porterhouse they can get their hands on. They're gonna throw it on a flat top grill, and it's probably gonna taste like pork chops, right? Like, I feel like we're almost punishing these people even more by saying, "What's your ideal meal? We'll serve you a really shitty version of that right before we kill you." Mm-hmm. Like, it just seems cruel.
That's
to
your
me.
that's your takeaway from this movie.
No, but it's my takeaway from this conversation because when he brought up the porterhouse thing, I was just like, that can't have tasted good.
Well, they're definitely not going to let him have it in a cell in front of his other cellmate. That's another thing. Like they would, like the interrogation room that he's in like 2 or 3 scenes. That's where they would have had the steak. He would not have had it in his bullshit cell with a fucking other guy. And not unsupervised.
They don't let most inmates have toothbrushes because they can be filed down and stabbed. They're not going to give a fucking T-bone to this guy.
It's absolutely insane. Yeah, exactly. The next one on this list is American Psycho.
Yeah, baby.
The movie came out in 2000. Christian Bale, man. This is, I don't know if this is his turning point.
I think it is.
It's weird. Like, I don't think this was a huge hit or anything, but I think it was sort of the announcement that he's ready to be a great actor. He had been around for a while, as a child actor in Empire of the Sun. He was in Little Women. He of course, was it Newsies was the other one that he was in.
Yeah.
But this was the first one where I thought, oh, Christian Bale is like really trying to be a great actor and everything. And this movie, yes, is insane. All of this is either taking place in his mind or is completely real. I think the movie sort of kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe, I have read, was told to play the character of the detective, one where he thinks Christian Bale is behind all this, and one where he doesn't think that he's behind all this. And they sort of mixed and matched the edits. So a lot of times you're just sitting there going, I have no idea what the fuck is going on in this. But yeah, he at least imagines this kind of violence, which is kind of, that's sick in itself, I guess. And I want to be careful about how we describe him too, right? We don't want to go off the deep end on this, right? Or can we?
You mean like diagnosing him?
Right. I mean, I don't want to say stuff is crazy or insane if it's not.
Sure. I mean, I think he's pretty clearly like mentally ill. I think that's.
I think the movie though, and this is based off of Bret Easton Ellis's novel, who writes the most despicable characters ever. I think the movie and the book are both portraying him as a psychopath. Mentally ill for sure, but as a sociopath,
unable to understand consequences.
Right,
that's like psychopathic.
Or empathy or anything like that.
Right.
I think it is based in reality when he picks up the prostitute at least the first time. And I think some of the violence is for real. Now, we don't know, starting with the whole Paul Allen stuff with Jared Leto's character. What a great cast by the Chloe Sevigny, Reese Witherspoon, Jared Leto in one of his best roles, Willem Dafoe, like you said, just an outstanding cast. But yeah, clearly at some point when he's talking about Huey Lewis in the News, that's where there's some sort of break from reality, and we still don't know how deep that break goes. I still haven't gotten this movie figured out. I've seen it probably 20 times, and I haven't gotten this movie figured out.
Did you enjoy that video I shared where somebody replaced all the business cards with smartphones with pictures of their kitty cats? And so they're all like
so
sharing
good.
pictures of their kitty cats.
But I'll tell you what, this and you could say this and Rules of Attraction both. I would not say Less Than Zero. Less Than Zero is a very good movie, but I don't think it's as bonkers. This and Rules of Attraction are both movies that could fit into this category as movies that just went for it.
Did you guys see? Did you guys see Choke?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Chuck Palahniuk book.
Yeah. Oh, why do I always confuse Chuck Palahniuk with Bret Easton Ellis?
Same kind of.
I really thought that was the same author.
Yeah, he's the Fight Club guy, Chuck Palahniuk.
Yeah. Okay, my bad.
Sorry, but that is an interesting.
I think Chuck Palahniuk is more about like what you will be willing to do for your obsessions.
Mm-hmm.
And Bret Easton Ellis is just showing the hard face of humanity.
He's a nihilist.
Everyone's a shithead.
Yeah, he's a nihilist, and he's the Ayn Rand or however you pronounce her name of this. Starting in the 80s, 90s, moving forward.
But this movie, on the surface is about a serial killer or whatever, but like it's got a lot of great satirical moments, like the business cards, being obsessed with the business cards. There's no good bathroom to do coke in here, like when they're at the restaurant. When Bale's at the nightclub and he says, "I'm into murders and executions," and the woman is like, "Oh, I have a cousin or a friend that's in mergers and acquisitions."
Yeah.
And like when he hires two prostitutes to come over, he starts off so nice and everything is like very cool, and then suddenly he's like, don't just stare at her ass, eat it. It's like that kind of thing that he just all of a sudden just there's a burst of violence that comes through him that is out of nowhere. You can't be lulled. You can't be lulled into a false sense of security around this guy.
Yep.
Yeah, that movie's great. I don't know what happened to Mary Harron after this.
She did Notorious Betty Page in the
I saw that too, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything that she's done since then.
I know there was another one too. Did she do I Shot Andy Warhol as well?
Yes. Yeah. I forget when that one was.
That was like 96 or something. Oh, she looks like she's gotten into TV a lot. That's like the new thing, right? To get into some TV. Mm-hmm. It's I guess there's not as much. I don't know. Not as much pressure on the TV stuff. You can still do creative things, but you don't have to. Your whole career doesn't depend on whether you can do this TV series or whatever. But next on the list, oh my God, Spring Breakers.
Jesus.
I love this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah. Harmony Korine. Or Korine. I don't know if I've ever heard him say it.
It's Korine, apparently, but nobody.
Oh, it's Korine. He's a local guy. He's a crazy-ass Nashville kid.
He is.
Who has made a lot of some of the most insane... He wrote Kids, which is an insane movie, and then movies like Gummo and Trash Humpers and stuff like that. He shows up in Good Will Hunting as well, like when Matt Damon is on the phone with what's... in the orange jumpsuit or whatever, and he comes by and he's like, "Hey man, you want to look at my ass?" or whatever he says. Yeah, Spring Breakers. Look at my shit. Look at my shit.
I tell you, this was correct me, 2013.
That sounds about right.
I mean, this is when so you got Vanessa Hudgens, Selena Gomez back right off of Disney or Nick or whatever she was coming off of.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Benson, who I think was a Disney person too. These are good girls, and and Selena Gomez does keep her.
I mean, it's
her
relative
morals.
innocence. Relative innocence.
Her innocence by kind of denying going along with all of this stuff. But the rest of them just sink into this beautiful haze of Florida and just going bonkers. And this movie's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I liked this movie okay, and then the ending I really liked it because I love the way they portrayed that heist or whatever that they're doing at the very end. I thought that was
Gucci
really
Mane.
good. Yeah. But yeah, I think it perfectly encapsulates weird Florida law breaking bullshit stuff, and James Franco is definitely spurring that insanity on during that, especially during that look at my shit scene and everything.
I don't remember. This was right as or before he started going to NYU and like doing everything, right?
Yeah.
He
Up
was in
until
that
now,
soap opera.
yeah, but up until now, he's done the Spider-Man movies. He's done relatively straightforward roles, and this is the first one I think I remember where he really went off the rails. And he's so great in this role. He's so great as Alien, especially when he's giving a blow to that gun.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.
Boom, BetterHelp. Quick personal anecdote, real quick. Counseling isn't always going to be fun, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. All right, it's not always going to be like, hey, I'm going to counseling. It's going to be the greatest days of my life. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. Sometimes it's challenging. And then you get to a point sometimes, and I have recently, I get to the point where you feel like you're really making progress. You feel like after a counseling session, you're walking on air. And it was not always the case with me personally. And that's the process that I've gone through with counseling. So if you are thinking about it and you're overwhelmed by saying, I don't want to dig too deep into these issues, I'm going to be mired in this stuff for years and years and years, there is a reason for doing this. And there is an outcome that you're looking for. And doing that is through counseling and really doing the process. And BetterHelp has a great interface for doing this. It's online counseling that you can do from your computer, tablet, phone, any of that stuff. You can message your counselor. You can you set up a text conversation. You can set up a live video chat. BetterHelp is just the absolute greatest gift to counseling to come along and forever.
All right. I'm going to be selfish for a second. If you decide to use BetterHelp or have, and you want to let us know one way or the other how that experience has gone for you, if it's helped you, that kind of stuff really matters to us. Like every time we get an email from somebody, we got one a couple weeks ago, somebody who says, I just really appreciate you guys hammering this message. I finally started and I see why it's such a great service. Like that, we pass that around internally, and all of us just feel like good human beings because we make these silly nitpicky videos. We joke around about movies for a living, but that's actually making a difference in somebody's life because mental health is every bit as important as your physical health. And so I would love to hear if you've started using BetterHelp, whether or not it was because of us. Those kind of stories, knowing that people are seeking out counseling in part because it's important for us to talk about it, just really, really means a lot.
Yeah, it does. And I know if you're a regular listener, you've heard us talk about BetterHelp before. But if you've been putting it off, if you've been like a little bit wary about it, if you've been a little bit hesitant to it, do it now. Just try it out. Go to betterhelp.com/SinCast. All you do is you sign up, you answer a few questions, you get matched to a counselor within 24 hours. A lot of times it's within your area, and you're off and running. And you schedule everything on your counseling room. Like I said, you can message your counselor. You can set up the text or the live or the phone call. It's an amazing service, guys. Betterhelp, HELP.com/SinCast. Don't put it off any longer, folks. Take care of yourself. Treat yourself. Betterhelp.com/SinCast.
We can move on to a movie we've talked about a lot. I don't think we need to go too deep into The Devil's Advocate because we have talked about it a lot, but it is exactly the movie that they set out to make, right? Like Al Pacino goes completely off the rails. They let him do anything he wants in that final scene. I really would love to have been I would love to hear stories about Pacino getting into the character and Keanu Reeves facing off against Al Pacino in this movie. And just, did they know that they were making something that was going to be like this when they saw the final product? Is this going to be? Are we really doing this?
Yeah. I mean, it's a small town lawyer gets seduced by the devil, and the devil finds out that he's the devil's son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, there's the elevator pitch right there, and you guys know. This is, the definition of bonkers. It is so worth seeing. Figured out only this week, actually, by the way. Taylor Hackford, who was the director of this, is married to the beautiful Helen Mirren.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I didn't know that either.
Did not know that.
That's
but
crazy.
God bless him. He's getting that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Southland Tales.
Yeah, talk about
we got to talk to Richard Kelly about this movie.
That was
awesome.
That was so
great.
great.
Yeah, Southland Tales is fucking insane. Like there's not one chance that you know what's going on after the first time you see this, and probably not the second. There's so many things. There's a lot of like I guess by the end of it, if you really think about it, the time travel is not super complicated. Mm-hmm. It's just that there's so many characters and so many things happening on this that by the end of it, you're like, damn, what did I just watch? Holy shit. I don't even know. I've talked about that line that I love so much about, The Rock saying like, it would upset the space time or whatever. And then he's like, you stupid bitch. And then kisses Mai Ling after that, or Bai Ling after that. That's such a great, and we got to ask him about that line too. Yep. That was the fun thing about it. That's where you really saw The Rock. I really think this is the movie where you saw The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, becoming an actor, becoming a real actor. Like, I know in Be Cool, he's like getting into that area, but like this is the one where like he really seems to get it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's funny, dramatic, whatever. He seems to know how he's supposed to be in these things. And Southland Tales is one that gets him to go all over the spectrum for acting, and it's amazing.
And you get to see actors playing against type for real. Nora Dunn is very understated. Sarah Michelle Gellar plays this wonderful counterpart to The Rock, where she's
awesome,
trying to be an early influencer, essentially, back in 2006. By this aggression against women is just awful. That's why I stopped doing anal.
Yeah. Yeah, they have these frank discussions with other porn stars out on a beach, and it just comes off completely like opposite of what they're trying to say during the entire.
Sean William Scott is great.
He's awesome in this.
Fucking John Lovitz and Sherry O'Terry are good in this too.
Talk about against type. John Lovitz doesn't. I don't think he cracks one joke in this movie.
He does call Sherry O'Terry a stupid bitch in a weird context too. But it's great. Amy Poehler, I think, is in this. John Larroquette. The cast is amazing. The ideas are audacious. As we talked to Richard Kelly, we found out that this is just, it's like Star Wars. It's the middle part of a 3-part series. And so, yeah, there's some stuff that kind of comes out of nowhere, but he's working to flesh out that universe. I'm all in, baby. This is you can't talk about this movie without talking about Justin Timberlake and that mid movie vignette of him doing.
I think that's
all
the
these things that
signature
I've done.
bonkers part of
Yeah.
the movie is him doing that killers thing. I'm so glad we got to talk to him about that movie. That's like one of the most satisfying interviews we've ever done.
I think you said Timberlake did that in like 1 or 2 takes too.
Yeah, because he didn't have him long or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, I've grown like the one I watched Southland Tales in theaters when I was in New York, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that movie was, and forgot about it for years, and then recently, like in the last year or two, picked it up again, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually like, you know, it takes some work to know what this movie's all about, but yeah, it's a bonkers Hall of Fame for sure.
Absolutely.
Then yes, Inherent Vice. This is like high-minded bonkers right here. Paul Thomas Anderson adapting a Thomas Pynchon novel, and I, from what I understand, reading Inherent Vice is kind of a chore, or like not a chore, but like kind of a puzzle, or kind of a, you know, I've never read the book, but this movie is too, and especially before it came out, Paul Thomas Anderson said stuff like Airplane was an influence on this movie, and I was like, I don't see any airplane in this except for maybe a couple of scenes. Everything else is all you being weird, kind of, or just taking the source material and filming it in this way. But I still don't know if I like this movie or not. It's hard to know if I like this movie.
This movie was made for me, I think, and maybe only me. I've watched it, I don't know how many times, and I've watched parts of it many other times. And, you know, everybody in here from Catherine Watterson, Joaquin Phoenix, Martin Short, and Josh Brolin is my favorite part of this movie. Bigfoot.
P.T. Anderson is like your boy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you like what you like, and he hasn't done anything that I have not liked.
That's what I meant. Like, you've liked all of his movies. Like, you know, at those upfronts or whatever, several weeks ago when I was talking about the trailers that they were showing the theater owners, but we didn't get to see, the studio head, I forget which studio it is, it's producing P.T. Anderson's next movie, said by way of teasing it, we will tell you what the title of that movie is when he tells us. And just like a week ago, they announced it's Licorice Pizza. Yeah. And it is about a record. Like it's going back to the 70s and vinyl and something along those lines.
Somebody got cast in that was very interesting too.
Well, it's done. I mean, they started showing, he's so interesting a guy. He's showing trailers in England only at specific theaters, like, and only in 35 millimeter. And so there was a theater that was doing a screening of Boogie Nights, and he sent them a 35 millimeter trailer for Licorice Pizza, and it's playing there. But no one on the internet can see it. No one in U.S. theaters can see it. He's got so much clout, and I respect it. I think he's earned it. I don't love all his movies the way Barrett does, but I think he's earned that clout. I think it's a little weird to not tell the studio what your movie's about or the name of it. But you know, artist's gonna artist. I guess
he's become this. There's a weird parallel with this. He's become this generation Stanley Kubrick, I believe.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, is that there's something about him that's very Kubrickian, not in the style of filmmaking, but the personality.
Personality, and he doesn't take nearly as long as Kubrick did to do what he does. But his art is so impeccable, and he has such control over everything that it makes it to where it's an event when a Paul Thomas Anderson film comes out. And what was interesting about this is that Tom Cruise met with Paul Thomas Anderson on the set of Eyes Wide Shut with the script from Magnolia, and agreed to do that, but he had to be delayed or whatever because it took 2 years or whatever it was to do Eyes Wide Shut. on location. So there is a bit of a weird overlap there. But yeah,
That's
Inherent Vice was made for me, and I appreciate him for doing that.
Yeah, I've seen Inherent Vice probably 3 times, and I don't think I understand the plot any of the times. Like maybe on a somewhat level I've understood that plot, but not all of it. There are scenes where I'm like, why did it logically come from this scene to this scene? Why is this happening now after this? And there's a lot of that, like there's a lot of unanswered questions for me in that movie, and I'll have to watch it again at some point. Cause again, like I said, I don't know if I like it or dislike it or what. I know there are scenes in it that I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do.
Well, yeah, Catherine Watterson's scene is one of the sexiest things I've ever seen in my life. But that scene where the mom shows a picture to Joaquin Phoenix and he does that, and then he just continues looking at the picture like nothing has happened. Yep. is some fun stuff. But God, oh man, yeah, I need to watch that again. I need to watch it again.
Good. It is so good.
I don't feel that compulsion. This is my least favorite P.T. Anderson movie. I only saw it once. I will watch it again someday because that's how I do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have no interest right now. That movie, as much as it was made for Barrett, it was made against me.
It is. It's worth watching for Josh Brolin's performance alone.
I'm sure that's true. I think he's ultimately one of our least heralded best actors.
Mm-hmm.
And Joaquin Phoenix, now he's amazing as Doc in this, but Brolin is his nemesis, and their last scene is one that I will replay over and over.
Is it the Panakeku scene, or is
no?
it,
that one I replay over and over again too. He's like, I like the pancakes here. They're not as good as my mother. Molto panacaco! Molto! But no, the last scene is where he kicks his door in and fucks up his shit, and Joaquin Phoenix is smoking weed, and he's like, what are you doing, Bigfoot? And he comes in and he looks at this giant patch of weed on a plate or a tray on his table, and he looks at him, he's like, this whole thing is fucked. And then he just eats the entire fucking tray.
Oh, yeah.
And he just stares at him. And he's like, don't call me brother, and that kind of thing. And then he just walks out. And then he steps on the door. He's like, man, that costs like $7,000.
Yeah.
So good.
Next on the list is From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's a bonkers-ass movie.
This movie's bonkers in many ways. One part of why it's bonkers is because it's kind of 2 different movies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are like robbers, and they kidnap this family who are in a trailer. Harvey Keitel is driving this trailer with Juliette Lewis, his daughter, and his son in tow, and they kidnap them and they cross the border to Mexico. They sort of stow away on this trailer. But the beginning of this is them robbing a gas station and then blowing it up.
So Tarantino. This is directed by Robert Rodriguez, but that is so Tarantino.
Well, yeah, this is when Tarantino's like, I got a script. Why don't I get one of my buddies to direct it? And that's what happened with this. So they go across. So it feels like, okay, this is about thieves trying to get across the border and all this. And they stop off at this bar out in the middle of fucking nowhere in Mexico, and everybody turns into fucking vampires.
That's right.
And this is Tarantino as shit though, for Clooney to come out at that point after the vampires come in, they kill all these vampires and everything. It's like, can we all agree that these are vampires? Like, I don't believe in fucking vampires, but I know what I saw. So, can we just dispense basically with this vampires aren't real bullshit, and then talking about how they're going to kill them and everything. And he's like, I think silver has something to do with vampires. And they're having this argument about silver, and Juliette Lewis is like, well, does anybody have any silver on them? And they're like, no. Well, then fucking stop talking about it. Who cares?
Oh, it's so good. Danny Trejo's in here. There's Fucking who's the makeup artist?
Tom Savini,
Tom
and you
Savini
have
is Sex
Fred
Machine.
Williamson is in this.
Fred Williamson. What a Cheech Marin that plays like 3 different roles in this.
Mm-hmm.
This is just absolutely bunk. This is such a hidden gem that I don't think even amongst the Clooney biography or filmography, I don't think is talked about very much. And I assume Jeremy does not like this movie very much.
I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right. People like what they like, and it's not everything is for everyone. So I'm okay with it.
You can agree that it's bonkers as hell, though, right?
Absolutely, it belongs in this conversation. When you said hidden little gem, a little part of my soul died, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm all right with that. It is bonkers.
It's right before. Now this is 96, 97, so it's
96.
right before Out of Sight. I think actually he did that Michelle Pfeiffer movie like in between.
One Fine Day. Don't call it that Michelle Pfeiffer movie. It's One Fine Day.
Did you see? You saw it, right?
I saw it. Yeah, I built it. And he did Peacemaker before that with Nicole Kidman. He worked with some pretty awesome. Well, yeah, it's a terrible movie, but
The Peacemaker was the first DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, that's why I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was still looking for what his thing was going to be.
Yeah.
At this point, and he was leaning action star. He ends up in Batman Forever,
Right? No,
Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin. But Out of Sight really set him on the right path. Out of Sight is what guides him to the Ocean's movies, and it's riffs on that cool persona that lead him to Michael Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just don't like this movie.
Yeah, everything about Clooney that you would talk about back in the day was like he would do that head bopping thing every time he was talking and everything. And then Out of Sight came along, and Soderbergh was like, "Okay, we're going to stop doing that."
he's trying to keep the camera on. He's like, "God damn it!"
And that was something that I had heard also about Paul Thomas Anderson when he did Hard Eight. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think in one of the featurettes or whatever that I saw back in the day, she's like, I was always trying to do these things with my hands, all these little actor tricks thing. And then he would come up to me and say, "You can't do that. I'm sorry. I can't let you do that." So he wouldn't let me do that. Yeah.
No, it's it's something that, that's my thing. No, stop doing that. It's not in service of this movie. If I can stop doing it.
I'm going to break off of this list and bring up a couple that Jeremy and I brought up. On my list, I had Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah, I love that
on
movie.
here. I have not seen this movie in forever, but if I recall, isn't this something where it's almost like the Seven Samurai or something like that, where they have to save the town? And
Yeah, it's like all of those, a few townsfolk versus a big gang type of thing. Yeah, except they have powers.
Yeah, exactly. And this same guy did Shaolin Soccer, which is another one that is
rules.
Bonkers as hell as well. Kung Fu Hustle, if I recall, had a lot of like WB Looney Tunes kind of things. But Shaolin Soccer, there's a scene where a guy kicks a ball so hard it declothes the goalie.
Yep. Yep.
Those movies are bonkers, fun as hell. If you guys haven't seen them, those are like must see bonkers movies. I think.
Stephen Chow, man. Stephen Chow should be mentioned up there with the Hong Kong directors with everybody else. And actors and performers too. He's amazing.
You guys ever eat that candy in the early 90s? Bonkers.
Oh, yeah.
That candy?
Oh, yeah.
Like a rectangle shaped Starburst kind of thing with like a flavor inside, and I love that candy.
Oh, I ate it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to check.
On one on Jeremy's list is The Cell, which I know Barrett can talk a bunch about, but I'm trying to remember whose mind is it? Vincent D'Onofrio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the killer that they're trying to infiltrate.
And it's one of these Inception before Inception type movies, kind of. Except if you think of Inception as kind of a it's more of a horror kind of Inception because we're going through a serial killer's mind and like all these different depths of his consciousness. and everything. I have not seen this in forever. Didn't Tarsem Singh direct this?
Back when he was called Tarzan.
Yeah, just Tarsem. Let's talk about some bonkersness in this. Do you remember many things about it?
Okay, so I saw it once. Pretty sure this was in my Hollywood 27 days.
It's 2000, I think.
2000, so I'm pretty sure I watched this because I built it. And it's one of the first movies that made me feel like I now know what it's like to take hard drugs. I also remember some of the visuals just being straight up awesome. Outstandingly cool, weird shit. But as far as understanding what was going on, I remember the movie mostly confused me, and I felt like I'd dropped acid. But I have not seen it since then. So it's been, 21 years. I just wrote it down because I remember, like, when you threw out batshit insane movies, I was like, the cell's got to be in there because that shit was. How did you even get the budget for that? How did you explain that to the studio that greenlit it? How did you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's got Jennifer Lopez she's empathetic to this kid, or this guy to whom she meets later on as his child form in his subconscious. He is in a medically induced coma, I believe, and she enters his brain to figure out the clue to, I think, a missing person. Vince Vaughn is her partner, or he's the FBI agent and kind of guiding her. It's not the best movie. The same thing could be said for The Fall, the Lee Pace movie that Tarsem Singh did later on. But the visuals are absolutely striking. And I enjoyed this movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
Going back to my list, I mentioned Mad Max Fury Road because I think it's a miracle this movie came out under the Warner Brothers banner. And a mainstream bonkers, and holy shit, a whole bunch of people went to go watch it. And it has great messages in it. But what you're going to come out of Mad Max Fury Road remembering is that chase all the way through the sandstorm. That's the big thing. And of course, the guy with the flaming guitar, you're going to remember all that. I mean, and he comes in at just the perfect moments too. God, this movie, how in the world did this get made? I remember seeing the trailer for this going, holy shit, someone just fell asleep at the wheel, right? They're not really coming out with this, are they? This isn't going to be like a big release. And then, it comes out and they're like, fuck it, let's do this shit. And everybody goes and watches it, makes it a big hit. There are some detractors who basically think this movie is, they drive to one place and then they drive back to the other place. What's the big deal?
Fuck those people.
But there's more than just, it's the little touches, man. George Miller's mind has got to be an interesting place because in addition to Flaming Guitar Guy, you've got Mother's Milk and the concubine situation with the, like, there's a bunch of the waterfall, the fucking Morton Joe face, the way they put spray silver on their mouth. There's so much weird shit. A lot of it he doesn't even bother to explain. It's just, hey, the future's going to be fucking weird. Deal with it. But yeah, this movie, there's no way this movie doesn't count as bonkers. It's absolutely batshit.
I tell you what, that fight with Tom Hardy and Charlize, right in the middle of that, after they kind of get pulled over, and there's one gun. Well, actually, there's two guns. There's a shotgun, and there's the one that's hidden in the truck. That thing is visceral, man. That's like Batman versus Tom Hardy in The Dark Knight Rises. Like, he rips her arm off and everything, and she's fighting him with this stomp and shit. He's using the chain, she's using the chain. Like, there's just all kinds of interesting action in this, and Nicholas Hoult is so good in this.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, this is just an amazing movie.
And of course, now because it's so great and made so much money, when Furiosa comes out with Anya Taylor-Joy in a few years, it won't be as shocking, and we won't feel like anybody fell asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually pretty geeked about that. The only regret I have is that, unlike Mad Max Fury Road, there's no way he spent 10 years storyboarding Furiosa, because it hasn't been long enough. But I think that dude is meticulous, and I think that pays off in that movie. I mention it every time we bring up Fury Road, but the continuity in all those cuts is just like a masterclass.
Perfect.
Like it's a TED Talk.
You see exactly how far the horde is from them, and then they're getting a little closer. But they're not. They look like they're close, but they're still 10 minutes away, 30 minutes away, or something like that. Because you can see so far. Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, and that's the reason why they even start on this journey in the first place, is because it's desert for miles and miles, and they notice that Furiosa is not going down the right road from the place that they're at, and it just goes to show what kind of an impossible situation they're in. How incredible this escape is, how audacious it is. Because they know that they're going to know that as soon as they get off that, they get off the main road. Jeremy also lists a bunch of great ones, but we don't have time for a lot of these. But Buffalo 66 stood out as one because this is Vincent Gallo and Christina Ricci, and Gallo is pissed off because he wants to kill who in real life is Scott Norwood, but I think they changed the name in this. But he missed the field goal in the Super Bowl, and his whole thing is about going on a road trip to kill this guy because he's an asshole for missing. I don't remember too much about this other than that main plot, though.
Well, again, what I remember is, and I've told this story before, but my roommates walked in when I was watching that movie. I was halfway through, and I gave a 2-sentence summary of what I was watching. It was one of the most ridiculous sentences I'd ever said in my life. But I think he kidnaps Christina Ricci, but then talks her into pretending to be his girlfriend when they get to his parents' house. And so there's a little bit of that, like, she starts being on his team instead of being a kidnap victim. But yeah, it's Batsh. It doesn't surprise me in the least that this guy went on to make Brown Bunny. Not in the least. Not that you can see the raw sexual stuff coming, but just in terms of like the guy who put this together, then saying, "Hey, I'm going to make a movie where for 10 minutes you watch me fill up my tank with gas."
Right.
It's going to be awesome. Buffalo 66 is, I think, potentially Mount Rushmore of batshit insane movies.
I took a first date to this movie.
Oh my!
Really?
Yeah.
I think you told me that.
It worked out. Well. With the hold on. When was this? 1996. This may be the aforementioned girl that cheated on me with Robert.
Hey, 1998.
Okay, it wasn't her then. I took another first date to this, and the whole spanning time together. Let's just span time together, and that became a running joke for me and my girlfriend.
Another one that's on my list, and on first glance, you may be thinking that I'm bonkers for even bringing this up, but The Natural is bonkers, and the movie's played very straight-laced, but Roy Hobbs is a guy who, in his youth, is going to be this amazing pitcher. Now, we have today, if you follow baseball, Shohei Ohtani can both pitch and hit. He does both very well. He hits better than he pitches, I think, but he still pitches really well. Better than most pitchers who can also hit, whatever. But back in the 80s, it's kind of unheard of unless you're like Babe Ruth. And then, of course, Babe Ruth was well before the 80s. But the idea of someone being a huge pitcher / can hit as well kind of guy is not. That's not what the movie seems to think. That the movie seems to focus on his pitching only at the beginning of the movie. Just focuses on pitching, and he's going to be the best pitcher ever. He gets shot by Barbara Hershey early on before he's even able to sign on with a major league team. And then 16 years later, he comes out of nowhere and is signed by the New York Knights as a right fielder, as a backup to Michael Madsen's Bump Bailey. There's absolutely zero reason why he was signed. The movie never once says, oh my God, he was tearing it up down in the minor leagues or anything like that. It was just, he's just there now. And even if he was tearing it up in the minor leagues, why would they bring this guy up if the whole mission for the judge who owns the team, if the whole mission is to make this team tank so that they can move elsewhere and make lots of money, which is what every baseball movie does. Every baseball movie is about a team moving. Why would you call somebody up like that who could help out? I never understood that. This is a movie I absolutely adore. I've seen it at least 50 times. No kidding. Because I was a kid and watched this every day at one point. And he comes back as a right fielder and hits incredible, prodigious home runs, hits them into the Wrigley Field clock and smashes it. At the very end, smashes the lights at the end at the pennant winning game and causes a fireworks display. He hit it so fucking hard. Where did that come from? After getting shot in the stomach, this guy becomes, over 16 years, the best fucking hitter in the major leagues. It's a batshit insane idea that is played straight throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Barry Levinson, father of Sam Levinson, which is how we'll describe Barry Levinson these days. I think because we did that interview with who was the director that we talked to? There was that movie. I can't remember what it was. There's a discussion in the movie about The Natural and how insane it is. And I was taking umbrage.
It's the Golden Arm lady.
It was the Golden Arm. Yeah. Barucha, something Barucha.
Marine Barucha. Yes.
Marine Barucha. Yeah. They're talking about how crazy it is, and I'm sitting there going, "I love The Natural. Fuck you." And I interviewed her, and I brought that question, I brought it up. I was like, "I have something to say to you about this Natural thing. I don't know if I agree with you or not." And then she's talking about how insane it was, and I was like, "Yeah. You know what? You are absolutely right. This movie is fucking insane if you think about it, because it doesn't. I mean, it's very, very straightforward. It feels like it's just a regular drama, but when you start asking questions about this movie, it's like, whoa, this is absolutely batshit insane movie. Yeah. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Poshmark.
Oh, Poshmark, guys. I have been hearing about this service for a long time. My wife has been lusting after a bag. She likes bags.
Ooh, bags.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been looking on Poshmark for forever. Poshmark is a giant marketplace from all different users where you can buy and sell clothes, a lot of which are brand new, tags on, all that stuff, slightly worn clothes that at a discount that you can totally take advantage of. You can interact with people, you can interact with closets, you can interact with brands. It's your shopping mall. Okay, if you are really interested in Levi's, for instance, because, hey, that's the hip brand. If you're really interested in Levi's, if you're really interested in Dockers, if you're really interested in, God, I'm coming up with the lamest brands. I'm going to
if you love Payless shoes.
Yeah.
Let me pull up some actual brands.
Dockers.
That's the brand.
Oshkosh bagosh.
Do you love Hanes?
Oh, God. What am I doing? Hang on. Oh, start that over. Okay. If you're into Lululemon, if you're into Nike, if you're into anthropology, Free People, J. Crew, Moschino, all these, London Fog, all these very, very cool brands that, of course, I'm into too, because nobody is more fashion forward than yours truly. You get all that stuff on Poshmark. What you do? I'll tell you what to do, folks. Look at me right now. Look at me. Look at me.
I'm watching.
Martin, look at me like I'm looking at you. All right. Here's what you do. You download the app, Poshmark, Poshmark. Okay? Got Poshmark. And then what you're going to find, you log in, you make an account, right? You log in, and then you shop. You shop. If you want to drop after you shop, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not gonna judge you. All right, you shop, you get what you want. You get your jeans, you get your shirt, you get your socks, you get your bag, you get your undies, you get your hat. I don't know. Whatever you want. All right? On Poshmark. And if you use the code, now here's our handle. I'm going to give you our handle. SinCast Posh. That's right. That's how we roll. SinCast Posh. You use that promo code after you download the app, get $10 off. What?
What?
That's not bad. $10 off, folks.
That's awesome.
SinCast Posh is your access, your way, your entry into the wonder that is Poshmark. Download that app, folks. That's where you start. Create your profile. Figure out what you like. You can tell them what you like, right? And they kind of like, say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, they learn your taste.
And you use SinCast Posh, and baby, you're off and running. You're going to love this. I guarantee it. It is going to change your life. SinCast Posh is your invite code. Download the Poshmark app. Put in SinCast Posh as your invite code. $10 off. You're off and running. You're going to love it, and we love it too. We're going to use it all the time. It is the beginning of a new special relationship.
Oh, Showgirls. Holy shit. Showgirls, it's either misunderstood or well understood. We've talked to a guy who did a documentary about this movie.
That's right. That's right.
I agree with his main conceit that he's talking about in this movie, in the documentary, where he says, for years, Verhoeven was making these ultra-violent satirical movies that basically were showing how insane society can be about violence. And he says it's the same thing about sex in Showgirls, because obviously the scene in the pool where Elizabeth Berkley is writhing around on the surface of the pool with Kyle MacLachlan and doing that, like, that is that even sex? Like, it's so it's such an insane scene. Of course it's meant to be insane, but then you're watching. What are we supposed to get out of that, right?
Yeah, there's
a lot of the time. Yeah, a lot of the times we're just like, yeah, it could be satire, but what are we supposed to learn?
I don't know what Paul Verhoeven is trying to satirize in 90% of his movies. I think with this one, it's a little bit more understood. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be the peek behind the curtain of the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas, especially when it comes to the showgirl lifestyle. And and it becomes a human story of Nomi and Gina Gershon and all the shenanigans that happen. She's a dancer. She wants to be the prima donna. It just happens to have a lot more titties than regular prima donnas. And I have to give it to Elizabeth Berkley, man. Look, it's not a great movie. I love watching it, but it's not a great movie. It's not a great performance, but I think she did what she was asked to do, and she got in incredible shape to do it, and she brings it in this movie. You cannot say that she didn't do her all in this movie.
And look,
whatever she was asked to do.
Took heaps of abuse for this role,
right?
Took
absolutely,
of it.
Absolutely.
Again, like, this is the sad thing about movies like this, is like, you don't have to take it out on the actor Take it
No.
out on the movie itself if you want to. The way the scene is presented and everything. You don't have to get personal about all these different things.
Yeah.
And boy, I can't imagine what she went through during all of this. You kind of want to like go back in time and be like, everybody needs to stop being dicks. But not that would help.
You
Not
show
that
up in
would
the
help.
middle of a square. I'm from the future. Everyone needs to stop being dicks.
Yeah,
Let's go.
exactly.
Let's use the Tesseract to send the skunk back in time and spray
yes.
all the people who were mean to her.
Let's see. Oh yeah, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. One of the all-time enduring midnight movie experiences. I myself went to the old Franklin Cinema and watched this at least 2 times, and I've seen it at the Belcourt as well on a midnight show. Tim Curry is Frankenfurter in this one, and Susan Sarandon, still Susan Sarandon. She married Chris Sarandon that long ago. Susan Sarandon.
Wow.
Susan Sarandon's in this, and you have is it Barry Bostwick is in this? It plays
Yes.
Who else has experience with Rocky Horror Picture Show?
So I'm gonna fall on my sword. I would say this is on my list of shame, but I don't really have any shame at having missed it, and I don't have any plans to see it. But it is one of the more famous movies that I have never seen, and my experience with this is specifically boiled down to The Perks of Being a Wallflower, when they do that recreation in front of the screen. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I know.
That was the
Interesting.
thing. That was the thing. Franklin Cinema, you'd go and you'd watch it, and there would be people dressed up as the characters in the movie, and they would act it out in front of the movie. And of course, there's a basically a script that you follow as an audience member in making fun of the movie as it goes through it. But it's been so long now since I've seen this movie. I can't even remember how they get in the house.
They break down.
And like all the stuff starts happening, and Meatloaf shows up on a motorcycle.
That's right. Eddie. No, I mean, look, what's weird about me, I've experienced this movie, probably half a dozen times or so. Never been to a midnight show of it. I've actually watched the movie. And yes, it's not the greatest thing ever made, but and this is definitely one of the more culty movies that you'll see. But Tim Curry is absolutely lightning in the bottle for Dr. Frankenfurter. Of course, he's trans in this movie, which what is 1975, 1976 or
75.
So, is certainly not something that was portrayed in popular cinema. Susan Sarandon was on her way to being a big star. Meatloaf had a big career in music, and I really enjoy it. It's got very libertine sex. Tim Curry goes in and seduces Susan Sarandon. Then he goes in and fucks her husband or her fiance. And this is presented and during this whole thing, he's making his perfect man, his Rocky, his beautiful creation. And at the end, as he dies, the creation brings him down to death as the chorus swells and everything. And it's obviously a very Frankenstein's monster type of situation. But it's so campy and it's so over the top and it's so nuts. They definitely, pull the cap off of the crazy box for this movie. They do whatever they want to. And the music I love very much. So I really enjoy this movie as a movie. I'm sure it would be fantastic as an experience at the midnight showings. I just haven't done it yet.
So this is very interesting. You've never heard the jokes that people throw out in the midnight shows before?
I think I've read about them and I've heard them secondhand, but I've never experienced them firsthand.
That's fascinating
because
it's a completely different experience.
I've seen The Room twice and I've never seen the midnight showing.
Yeah, well, although The Room doesn't have a set thing of
Yeah.
what you're supposed to say, although there are its moments where people
Throw spoons and shit.
throw spoons and they say different. It's always a different experience with The Room, but Rocky Horror Picture Show has that scene where like Riff Raff is like turning that churn or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. Before he does that, someone will always yell out, "Hey, Riff Raff, show us how you fuck your sister." And then, and it's like, and he does that churn thing. And then it's like, and then everybody's like, "That's not it." And then it keeps going faster and faster. That's not it. And then it gets, there it is. So yeah, I don't even remember very many other jokes that are in that Rocky Horror thing, but it used to be, I feel like there's a script basically, because it was
Yeah.
almost the same experience over and over again. Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show is definitely in that bonkers category. Let's see what we want to. I think Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is a perfectly good movie to end this on. We're not going to get to everything on the list, of course. We're
We
not.
can do this again. This is fun.
I mean, yeah, we'll always do this again at some point, but Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, based on the Hunter S. Thompson book, which I read in college.
Yeah.
I read this shit before the movie came out.
Perfect time to read it.
Yeah, and it was being made when I was in college. But Terry Gilliam took this, got Johnny Depp to play Hunter S. Thompson and Benicio del Toro as his buddy. And oh my God, this movie, I hated this movie. And then I watched it, I don't know, last year sometime, and I loved it.
Yep.
Fucking loved this movie. Because there's so many funny things in it. So many.
I agree.
Yeah. Especially the film that he watches when he goes in, and there's that, it's like that anti-drug thing or whatever, and it's like, how do you spot a drug user or a marijuana user or whatever? He's like, he has all these different things. One of them is his pants will be stiff from all the semen that, from masturbating or whatever. It's like
from ruthlessly masturbating, and then Raoul Duke or Johnny Depp looks down at his pants at a stain and starts scraping at it.
Listen, I watched this movie. My only experience with this movie was the 40 minutes I watched of it with two guys who were literally on shrooms. And I had a lot of fun. I'm not sure the movie itself would give me the same level of fun if I didn't have two dudes on shrooms watching it with me every time. But I have yet to see it start to finish, and I've yet to see it without really fucked up friends who were laughing at things that were not even jokes, not even intended jokes. Everything in that movie's liar, liar to people on shrooms.
Yeah, I love that whole thing about like the cop is chasing him, and he's like, most people will pull right over when a cop comes up behind them. This is wrong.
Let the pig chase you.
Let the pig chase you. Yeah.
As he pulls over, like he's standing by the car, like, and of course it's Gary Busey. He's like, "May I have a kiss?"
Yeah. And like, they're he's sitting there thinking to himself that they're driving around where there's going to be a bunch of vampire bats coming around at this point or whatever. And then he tells Benicio del Toro, "Don't stop. It's bat country." Yeah. Tobey Maguire. They pick up Tobey Maguire and he has a fun role in this,
Christina Ricci, Craig Bierko is in this.
It's more, I mean, there's so many stars in this. You don't even realize it until you watch it. I mean, you could sit there and look at the IMDb and like, whoa, that's a lot of stars. But like when you watch it, it's like incredible.
There's a scene where they're in the elevator, and Craig Bierko is playing Lacerda, the photographer, is with Cameron Diaz, and she's trying to talk to Benicio del Toro, who's playing Depp's lawyer, and she's like, "Do you ride?" And Craig Bierko knows who Dr. Gonzo is, who the lawyer is. And he's like, "Yeah, I ride." And she's like, "Oh, what do you ride?" And he's like, "I wear the the big fucking ones. I'm talking about the big ones. And Bierko laughs. And there's this wonderful scene where like he's like, "What the fuck did you just do?" And he goes up to Bierko, who's this weenie in this movie, and is like, "What the fuck did you just do?" And he gets up, and Bierko's face is like, "Nothing. I didn't do anything." And so Del Toro pulls off this big knife, huge knife, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you know what I'm gonna do? You know what I do to people like you?" And he's like, "I don't know what." And he's like, "I'm gonna do the," and he like thrusts at him, but stops before he hits him. And Bierko, when he does that, he's like, he makes this wonderful noise.
And of course, I love too
so
when the maid comes in and it sees this this hotel room they've just completely thrashed. Probably looks like a regular Johnny Depp
That's
hotel
true.
room.
That's true.
But he attacks the maid, or does he have a gun or a knife? I can't remember what it is.
He's got a gun with him, but he puts it away. Yeah,
But they know, she knows that there's like some sort of anti-drug convention in this hotel, and she goes, "Don't do anything, don't hurt me. I'm against drugs." And Johnny Depp's like,
drugs.
"Yes, I hate drugs." And Johnny Depp is like, "So do we." After he's done all the drugs, the drugs.
Yeah. They're on a top secret assignment. No, this is a fun movie. And Gilliam, I love me some Gilliam. You could put Brazil in here if you wanted to.
Yeah, I love Brazil.
And we'll maybe mention Monty Python at some point. It's a dude that'll go for something, man. He'll do what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, and he tried to do Don Quixote at one point and didn't quite work out, which is the subject of that documentary about how nobody can make Don Quixote.
That's right.
And it seems like it's impossible to make. All right. Do you guys have some more bonkers movies that you want to talk about? Go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, Discord, and SoundCloud. But that's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sherry. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
You have to ask me about my what?
Your skunk experience.
Oh, that scared the shit out of me, man.
Terrifying.
That scared the shit out of me. I have gone outside again since then, but not after the face off, because I didn't know where the fuck he was.
This is out the back door, right?
Yeah. This is like now I leave the gate open for most part of the day, so he walked right through the gate between my pool and my grill.
He was in the backyard.
He was on the patio.
Oh shit!
No, he was like probably 8-10 feet away from me.
Oh,
and we both just froze. And I didn't even. I wish I'd have taken a picture or something, but I was too fucking freaked out. And
yeah, of course.
Once I got back inside, unsprayed, I was like, "That's it. I'm not going out again." And I went back to check, and he was still fucking there. And I was like, "Man, he's like."
Well, yeah, he's figured out like this is my territory now. Bitch.
Yeah, that guy's afraid of me. I'm the alpha, and my wife's dad actually had a pet skunk when he was a kid. It was deglanded or whatever.
Yeah.
And he called it Snidely Whiplash. He loved it. Pet
That's
skunk.
adorable.
I think so too. I mean, this was 40 years ago, 50 years ago in rural Kentucky. I'm not sure laws were exactly being followed, but.
So you get out there, this motherfucker's standing right there.
Yeah,
you both freeze.
Yep.
You're so close to the house that not only if you get sprayed, you're going to get sprayed, but then like a lot of the house and the house outdoor issue,
even indoor. We had a skunk spray at our old house outside, and the whole house smelled like skunk for like 2 days.
Fuck that.
So
you did you back off? Did you just?
Yeah, my back was basically to the door. So I just opened and slammed the door, went back inside, breathed pretty hard, had a little mini panic attack. And then
yeah, from what I understand, it's not easy to get that stink out if it gets into your clothes.
I remember an episode of Mythbusters where they tried like a bunch of different potential remedies to get skunk spray out. One of them got sprayed on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Jackass, but it was Mythbusters. And like one of the things they tried was a bath in marinara sauce, I think. But ultimately, none of it worked. Nothing.
Oh, for real?
helped.
I thought tomato sauce or tomato juice or whatever.
Maybe I don't. I remember. Wow, it was years ago. I remember feeling like the conclusion was nothing really helps. Don't get sprayed by a skunk, but I could be wrong.
I got indirectly sprayed one time when we were camping, but I didn't get the full effect. That was my buddy Robert, who ended up. My girlfriend cheated on me with him. So fuck that guy. I'm glad he got sprayed.
Yeah, he probably deserved it then.
Robert.
That skunk was probably doing you a favor, doing you a
This
solid.
was long before that happened, but it was. He knew. That skunk knew.
It was like Interstellar. Like it was like a rival. Like he went.
The skunk was a tesseract.
He was like, "Bitch, I know what you're doing."
And Barrett from the future is like,
Like squeezing his more.
No, Murph. No, Murph.
No, Murph.
Did you see the photos everyone posted of Megan Fox's outfit at the Met Gala?
I saw that.
If they can post that on news sites, then I don't know why we can't post straight up nudity on YouTube because she was naked.
Are you talking about the VMAs or the Met Gala?
Whichever. The one where she was
Pretty
The
sure
sheer
that was
dress.
VMAs.
That was the VMAs. Yeah.
Yeah, it was VMAs.
I didn't know if she wore it again for the Met Gala.
Because that was there was also talk about Machine Gun Kelly getting in a fight with Colin McGregor, or Colin McGregor just threw some water at Machine Gun Kelly or whatever. Two people that I definitely would want Machine Gun Kelly to come out on top, but that's like one of those.
Yeah, I
Machine
mean,
Gun Kelly hasn't done anything wrong. I don't think so. It makes some bad music.
Oh, we missed a booby?
Well, no.
I just don't. I mean, there's a difference in my mind between like who's somebody that's got like one tattoo. That's famous.
Justin Timberlake, I think. Well, he may have more than one, but he's got that big cross on his.
Yeah. Okay.
shoulder,
So there's
which
that.
looks great. That's a perfect. That
and
looks
then
really good. On him.
there's Post Malone.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, why?
Like, he's got like the barbed wire right across his hairline.
This is a cry for help.
Yeah.
This is somebody who needs attention. This is somebody who's getting attention, who needs even more. I don't get it. Anyway, let's stop bashing on people because of their appearance. I'm sure they're all lovely. I'm sure Machine Gun Kelly is a lovely guy.
He's a better actor than he is a musician.
I'm sure he returns the favor, if you know what I mean.
Do you like his music? You liked his Valentine song.
My
right?
Bloody Valentine is the only song of his I've heard that I like, and I get the sense that's the exception to the rule for me with him. Like, that I would not like his normal stuff. I know he's an actor, and I haven't seen him in any acting, and he did good in that Motley Crue thing that you guys saw. Yeah. Music-wise, it's not for me. Now, the other dude that's dating the Kardashian, Travis Barker, like he's even more worthless, in my opinion, musically.
He's a great drummer.
And he's got a penis tattoo on his head.
Are you serious?
He's got a penis tattoo, huh?
I'm saying there's a tattoo on his head that looks very phallic in that picture I tweeted last night. Because
I didn't examine the tattoo. It looks very phallic.
It does to me. There's one that goes from the front of his. If you open that image in a new tab, you can zoom on it. And if you zoom on it, it's probably like a. It looks kind of like it's maybe like a Mona Lisa or Virgin Mary with a circular thing around her head.
Yeah. Oh, you think that looks like a penis?
It looks like a dick.
The Madonna?
Yep, looks like a dick.
Too many dicks on the dance floor.
Too many dicks.
You think the Virgin Mary looks like a dick?
Don't put words in my mouth.
Well, you think that representation of the Virgin Mary looks like a dick?
Yeah. Sometimes things look like dicks, even though they're not intended to.
I don't know if I'm there with you, man.
It's a phallic. I wouldn't put it past him to have asked for a phallic Virgin Mary. Can you give me a phallic
what is
Virgin
the
Mary
head?
tattoo?
Is the head the head?
Her head is the head. You
The
have
head
to
of the
ignore.
dick.
Yeah, you have to ignore the circle around her head. I just kind of.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, this is dick.
Huh.
Anyway, point is, his music is even worse. That's really what I meant.
He's a
to say.
very good drummer.
Drummer? Okay.
He's a drummer.
I
What
see him.
does he actually make other music? I don't even.
Maybe who am I thinking of? Travis Scott. That's the guy I'm
Travis
thinking
Scott
of.
is
His
a
music
whole
worthless.
different thing.
But, okay. Phew.
No,
Too many
Travis
Travises.
Barker was
You
the
confuse
drummer
Travis
for-
Barker and Travis Scott. That's racist.
Travis Barker was the drummer from Blink 182.
Oh. I posted that picture and one of my cousins replied, 2 of these people are in their 40s. I just thought that was a funny reply because they're all acting like teenagers in that picture.
Well, it is fucked up because Barker and Megan Fox are in their 40s, right?
Megan Fox is not in her 40s.
Kourtney Kardashian is in her 40s.
Kourtney Kardashian might be in her 40s. Like Kim Kardashian just turned like 41, I think.
Well, Kourtney's older than her.
Is Kourtney older than her?
Yeah. My wife used to watch that show back in the early days before everybody hated
No,
them.
I thought she was the oldest for some reason.
I thought Kourtney was the oldest and Kim was the
Courtney
middle.
is 50. Courtney is 42. She's actually my age. Well, she's a little bit older.
The point is they're all too old to be doing this.
Yeah. No, I agree. Maybe Machine Gun Kelly. And that's
They
the only
even-
one.
They even came out at the VMAs and announced them as our future baby daddies. Like, I feel like they are puppy loving right now, and good, more power to them. You know, I've been married for 14 years. I don't remember what it's like. Maybe it's addictive, but like, grow up. Like, act like you've been there before. Wear clothes.
Act like you've been there before.
All right. Machine Gun Kelly is 31. How old do you think Megan Fox is, Chris?
Oh, she's 35. I know that off. the
Really?
top of my head. Yeah.
That's probably about right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's right. I saw a clip yesterday that was hilarious that somebody posted to Reddit. Basically, one of the first times Seth Rogen was ever on Jimmy Kimmel's show, Megan Fox was the guest or the co-guest. And she even came into his dressing room before the show and asked him to stay out when she came out to be interviewed because it would make her feel more relaxed. And Seth Rogen is like, awesome. All right, cool. With Megan Fox, this huge star, Transformers just came out. And so when he gets up to change seats, Kimmel announces her and walks over and they kiss each other on the cheek. And Kimmel goes back to his desk and she walks up to Seth Rogen and he goes to do the cheek kiss and she just walks right by him. And he makes this face like, yeah, and sits down. But the video I watched was his next appearance on Kimmel. And he's telling the story about, I'm pretty sure the last time I was on here, I had this awkward interaction with Megan Fox. And Kimmel's like, actually, we pulled the video so that we can show you. And he walks him through it again. And it's every bit as cringy as you would expect. He's just like, going in for the cheek kiss, and she's like, not going to kiss you, dude.
Funny. That's funny. Yeah, I know you guys don't like those late night shows, and I've fallen out of love with them too, except for maybe Colbert. But
I still like watching Colbert, but one thing that I wish he would be better at, and it's hard to do for a nightly show, he obviously puts more time into the opening monologue than anything.
Yeah.
There's like every interview he does, like, I mean, it's become a joke now, and it's funny to them to bring this up. But like, have you seen the movie? Oh yeah, of course, I've totally seen the movie. And he's never seen the movie, or he's never read the book.
Which he should know better, man, because Jon Stewart always read the book. That's the one thing I heard from Colbert himself back in the day when he left to do his own show. He was like, when Jon Stewart has these authors on that nobody's heard of, they're writing like environmental protection books and shit like that, or history books, he's read those books before he interviews these people. And he's like, that always impressed me. So
it shows when he interviews how little he knows about his person he's talking about, or he's doing his questions with. So like it would be nice for him to know even some of their background, like some of their older movies, even if he hadn't had time to watch the one that they're promoting, then at least know something about prior movies and things like that. And it doesn't look like he does know those things. So
Man.
It's kind of, I love Colbert, but I can almost skip every interview he does. I will occasionally watch some that are really interesting figures, but my God, it's so clear he doesn't know everything.
When I was doing that, like small town media tour for whichever one of my books I did that for, I think it was the second Abel's book. When I went to Baltimore and then I drove to Memphis that one time, like they were all, nobody knew who the fuck I was or what the books were. So they were all standard questions. The very last interview I did was at the Memphis Library for this little known podcast that this guy does about books. And I go in there into the bowels of the library and we sit down and he's like, I was really fascinated by Philip's journey through these two books and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh shit. And he started asking questions. And I was like, I don't remember that character.
Oh, God.
Like, he had not only read them, he had prepared. And I'm like, dude, I wrote that like 2 years ago. I don't really remember. I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of like when they, whenever you see people who've done, like the Simpsons voices or whatever, and people ask them about certain episodes and stuff, and it's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Like, I get that some authors are there. Like, I follow Christopher Paolini, who wrote Aragon, and people will ask him questions about his world and his characters all the time, and he knows everything. He is the Silmarillion of his own works, and I would never be that. People could say to me, hey, why did Chaz do this thing in chapter 20? I'm like, I wrote a character named Chaz? That doesn't sound like me. I write it, I read it when it's, proofed, and I'm done. I move on. It's not how I work.
Oh, there it is. If I had a body like that, I wouldn't wear clothes ever.
I don't know, man. I have a body like that, but I don't like showing it off. Makes me feel subconscious.
Makes me feel subconscious as well.
Self-conscious, not subconscious. Unconscious.
Probably.
I don't. I would
eBay.
Actually the opposite. I actively do not want them.
Well, to each his own. I mean,
I'm doing that Sopranos rewatch, and when Chris gets made, and Paulie keeps fucking with him and is making sure he's not wearing a wire and shit, and like he bursts into his apartment. And he goes in and he sniffs Adriana's panties.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Tony calls him out on it, and he's like, "Look, they're not married yet." And Tony's like, "Come on,
they're not married yet."
Look, when he puts a ring on that finger, anything that touches a pussy will not touch my nose.
Oh, I had to make a rule about that.
They did.
He's like, "You sniffed your panties, Paulie." It's like, give me a break, Tone.
Doesn't Christopher find out about that?
He saw him in the mirror when he was doing it, because he's going through the thing, and he's like, he pauses for a second. He's like,
"Fucking Paulie." So, if Chris had not asked for that break, I would have missed seeing this.
What's this?
This is my cat twisted in a pretzel on my wife's lap.
Oh.
Which one?
And
Is that?
I wouldn't have got to see that's guilty. I wouldn't have got to see that if you hadn't requested that break.
You wouldn't have seen it?
Well, she took pictures, but I wouldn't have gotten to see it live.
Nice.
Ah, I see.
It's not. He doesn't do He doesn't do this very regular. Like, that's fucked up.
He's like, yoga pose.
Yoga pose. Downward facing, upward facing, spiral facing